50 nominees were forwarded by the PSC. Will also be having and keeping an eye on that, especially when he begins to nominate who are going to make it to his administration as principal secretaries. But let's begin on the education affairs, where Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms has embarked on a countrywide tour to receive views from stakeholders on the implementation of competency-based curriculum. According to the chair of the task force, Professor Raphael Munavu, the team will complete county tours by November 12, then compile an interim report to President William Ruto between the 1st and the 2nd week of December. Shadrach Miti with that report.
These are grade 5 learners at a Good Testimony School in Nairobi, having their home science practical lesson. And on this day, the learning activity is to bake a cake. The learners undertake coordination and planning under the close supervision of their teachers. It took about 30 minutes for the cake to be ready to serve. And with about 6 years of existence, the summative assessment of the competency-based curriculum kicks off, with the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms visiting counties for public engagements. Although the task force is supposed to collect views on the entire education sector, right from basic education to the universities, much focus will be on the competency-based curriculum. The task force is expected to undertake a summative evaluation of the CBC curriculum, assess and recommend an appropriate structure to fast-track its implementation, and come up with a framework on how it will be examined.
We are ready to be invited to make a presentation on how we need the AFPET schools to be considered or undertaken in terms of the facilities, in terms of the infrastructure, because you can talk about junior secondary, but we are not talking about attaching the junior secondary with the AFPET.
When we talk of transition of these learners from primary to the high school, we need to consider the learners who are in the vulnerable sector, that is, in the low-income estate.
My document is ready and shall be shared as from tomorrow in the counties. So after the county presentations, we shall gather much more that our teachers from schools have presented to branches. Branches have presented to the counties where I've sent the document. So we are home and dry.
The cost of CBC is also expected to generate more views, especially from parents, following complaints and claims of too much work and financial demands on parents and guardians. With teacher preparedness and school infrastructure also expected to take center stage. For the Kenya National Union of Teachers, their submissions will be county-specific.
When we are doing the exam, KCP or KCSE, the Kenya National Examination Council supplies ready exams. But now when we are doing these assessments, you find that either the school has to print for themselves, or they are printed by the commercial printers and then supplied to the institutions. This one adds a very, very big cost.
We must actually talk about infrastructure. We've mentioned, and we are stressing on it, the working party must consider the improvement of infrastructure if we have to line up what shall be best for us in CBC and even education as a sector generally.
County engagements will start on Tuesday in Kwale, Taita Taveta, Marsabit, Nyandarua, Turkana, Kericho, Busia, Migori, Mandera, and Samburu counties. The 49-member team led by Professor Raphael Munavu has been split into 10 teams, with each team required to visit between 4 to 5 counties. Shadrach Miti, KTN News.
And the CBC has been one of the biggest conversations in the country, especially after President William Ruto resumed office as the president, and the Kenyans are wondering whether the Ruto administration is going to do away with the CBC or not, following claims or complaints by parents. Let me quickly engage my colleague Winfrey Owino. It's great to speak to you, Winfrey. There have been conversations online, especially what parents are saying, that we are not not ready for the CBC, but the president did not really disband or do away with it immediately, but formed a task force to look into it. So what do we expect from this task force, Winfrey?
Good morning, Purity. And today is the first day the task force that was put in place by the president kicks off to some counties. They're going to meet stakeholders in the education sector and discuss what is working, what is not working, what needs to be improved, and what needs to be added into the implementation of the competence-based curriculum. So you all remember way back, 6 years ago, in fact, the former president brought in the CBC and it was to replace the 844. So the CBC was basically to make the learner be more competent in terms of their talent. So it was implemented, of course, and this brought about a public outcry from parents who are complaining of the costs and the time, because now when you talk of CBC, children are brought home, are sent home with homework, which will need time and materials which are also needed to be bought by parents. So it brought about a discussion on whether this education will really be equal among people, the haves and the have-nots. So the task force kicks off today, but they're just going to interrogate what is working. They'll meet with teachers, school heads, school owners, and even students, the learners themselves. They'll try and get their experience from the CBC. Then they'll come up with a final framework of how this thing can be implemented effectively and to the benefit of both the parents and the learner. So basically, there's no talk of removing or doing away with the CBC. What is going to happen is just going to be maybe an amendment just to improve it, do away with those things that are strenuous, and make it more friendly to both the learner, the parent, and the teacher. So that is what we're expecting, but we'll just see how this develops, how they meet, what the stakeholders will say, and what now the final framework they'll present to the president. Purity.
All right, Winfrey, thank you so much for that. We'll be getting back to you, especially on what's trending. DP Rigathi Gachagua keeps making headlines, and yesterday he was addressing the issue of drought. So he'll be telling us more, especially conversations online. The probe also into the death of baby Trevor's minor who had a djembe lodged into his head. We'll also be having that conversation. For now, let's cross over to Kericho County, where the county boss, the county governor, is launching Kericho Tea Task Force. Let's link up with our colleague Dalma Sakali for more details. Sakali.
Good morning. Like you've just rightly put it, I'm coming to you live from Kericho County. Actually, on our way to Kericho County, of course, following up various issues around tea sector and, of course, tea farming. And, of course, there has been a huge discussion around mechanization of the tea sector, of course, issues to do with plucking tea and so on. It has been a huge discussion, a huge issue. And it is one of the issues that was actively used during campaigns in the last general elections, that is on the August 9th, of course, general elections. And so many issues have been raised around mechanization. Of course, there are those supporting the need for the multinational companies to continue with their plan. And, of course, the actualization of the use of machines in plucking tea. Of course, the sector that has employed thousands of people in Kericho County, and not just in Kericho County. We're talking about Kericho County, we are talking about Bomet County, we are talking about Nandi County, and by extension Nyamira County, and even Nakuru County and other counties. The discussion has been that the use of machines in plucking tea and, of course, other processes around tea has denied job opportunities to so many people who had earlier on been employed in the tea sector. And, of course, that meant job losses to thousands of people. Of course, for instance, in Kericho County, we're talking about more than 10,000 people that have been employed in the tea sector in this county, not even mentioning the other counties where tea farming is actively practiced. So Kericho County Governor, I'm talking about Dr. Eric Mutai, today is launching a task force to look into the issues, and it is a task force that is largely comprising of representatives from the multinationals, of course the companies that are employing the use of machines, and representation of course from the locals and other stakeholders. We're talking about unions and other players in the tea sector. But of course it's also important to look at those that have been pushing for the use and the continuing use of machines. The reasons for that, of course, has been due to the fact that machines make work easier. Of course, we're talking about more profit for the various companies that have invested in the tea sector. And of course, we're talking about job being done faster. There is an estimation that what a machine can do will actually be done by more than 10 people. So of course, that also means less expenditure in terms of salaries and wages and so on. But of course, there are those, like I've mentioned earlier on, who are against the use of machines, and they are also having their own valid reasons. They are saying using machines, like I've mentioned, is leading to job losses, and of course that means families are struggling. It's important to note that there are families in Kericho, for instance, which are purely green. That is, someone is born growing tea, has come of age, plucking tea, and is retiring, still plucking tea and doing other things in the tea sector. And of course, we're also talking about issues to do with quality. There is a huge discussion as to whether the use of machines to some extent is compromising the quality of the Kenyan tea. Of course, we understand what we mean when you talk about the Kenyan tea on the international market. And then lastly, there is the issue of the readiness and the progressiveness around the use of machines. Yesterday, we were talking to some union officials who are saying that there needed to be a perfect plan to ensure that machines are being used and being introduced in a certain plan progressively. Of course, reminding us that there were some trials that were done in the 80s, around 3% embracing of machines, and then the same died, and we're now talking about 100% use of machines. So there are those who are feeling machines are not that bad, but maybe it should take some time before the full use of machines. That is one of the issues, and of course there are also so many other issues. Kericho town, for instance, and of course the other towns. There are those who feel that these towns are going to become ghost towns due to the fact that their growth greatly dependent on tea farming. Of course, talking about the border sector, for example, talking about business operations here and there. So it is a broad issue, and we expect that the task force that is being formed today, and of course the involvement of the other governors, Bomet governor, Nandi governor, and the other counties governors, is going to find a lasting solution to the issue around tea farming and the use of machines and such like. So of course we'll keep you posted on what will be happening on the task force and other issues around tea farming in Kericho County. So from Kericho, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dalmas Sakali, for that detailed update. Please, like you said, keep us updated on what the task force really says in regard to the reforms in the tea sector, especially in that particular county. Several newly appointed cabinet secretaries assumed office on Monday, taking over from the outgoing predecessors. Among those who took over are new Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, who pledged to modernize the Kenya Defense Forces, KDF. Speaking during the handover from the outgoing Defense CS Eugene Wamalwa, Duale committed to ensuring that KDF maintains a high level of professionalism, loyalty, trust, integrity, discipline, and respect. Willie Lusige reports.
With new cabinet secretaries having vowed to hit the ground running to deliver the Kenya Kwanza agenda after their swearing in a few days ago, on Monday, a number of outgoing CS officially handed over their duties of their respective offices to the new office bearers.
Which side? Oh, okay.
Kenya's new Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale assumed office on Monday with a pledge to modernize the Kenya Defense Forces, KDF. Duale, the former Garissa Township MP, succeeds Eugene Wamalwa, who has been at the helm of the ministry for about 1 year. Duale emphasizing that modernization will go a long way in guaranteeing and safeguarding Kenya's territorial integrity.
And I want to wish him well as he takes over this docket. And I also want to thank the CDF, the Vice CDF, and all the KDF leadership for working with me for over 1 year that I've been at this ministry.
While acknowledging that he's not green on matters military, he pledged to improve the welfare and well-being of the soldiers with respect to the condition of their service, housing and medical scheme.
We pay special attention towards improving the welfare and the well-being of the KDF fraternity. And this is in terms of their condition of service, their housing, their medical schemes, and of course ask Parliament for more budgetary allocation and approval.
Former Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya was at the Ministry of Mining where his predecessor Monica Juma, who was acting CS, welcomed him as she exited.
His Excellency President William Ruto has configured this ministry in a very useful and synergized manner, mining both on land and offshore. You know, I think that is the way to conceive it.
His Excellency put this ministry so that it can inspire the growth of our country.
Mvurya will handle the mining, blue economy and maritime affairs ministry, promising to digitize mining license application from the current manual state.
Ni wizara ambayo inaweza kuifanya Kenya kuwa tajiri sana. Lakini itawezekana tu kufanya hivyo kama tutakuwa na sera na sheria ambazo zitaweza kuiangazia nchi yetu na kufahamu zile sehemu ambazo ziko na madini.
Meanwhile, Davis Chirchir officially took over the Ministry of Energy, while Susan Wafula was handed over the Health Ministry by former CS Mutahi Kagwe.
After the completion of the handover process, Kenyans are now looking forward to see if President William Ruto's cabinet will be able to deliver as it promised, especially in uplifting the poor to a higher and better level through the bottom-up economic model. Will KTN News at the Ministry of Mining in Nairobi.
And all hospitals and medical practitioners who attended to the late baby Trevor's minor after a fork djembe was struck in his skull as he was playing with his siblings will appear before the Senate Health Committee that is probing his death. The Jackson Mandago-led committee is also expected to tour Kenyatta National Hospital, where Trevor's died, for a fact-finding mission. Brenda Zeda Radido with the details.
Pain and tears is what characterized the first Senate Health Committee meeting held Monday morning as members listened to what transpired to Travis Maina, who had a fork djembe stuck in his skull as he was playing with his siblings in their home in Kiambu County.
Vile nilimuuliza aliniambia alikuwa ameacha watoto hapo wakiwa watatu. Lakini hizo majembe zilikuwa kwa nyumba, saa vile wao watoto walitoa kujua hiyo.
Wakati hiyo accident ilifanyika, hiyo jembe ilikuwa na ile mti. Hiyo mti ilitolewa wapi?
Hiyo mti ilitolewa huko sasa huko Dura, lakini mwenye kutoa sikujua.
Appearing before the Senate committee, the late Travis' mother, Judy Muthoni, through her sister, painted a picture of what transpired the day his late son was rushed to a local dispensary and a Thika Level 5 hospital for treatment.
Ile alienda kwanza ilikuwa dispensary huko Dula, ndio alimpea first aid, alafu akamleta Thika Level 5.
Ni scan. Wakatuma hizo picha Kenyatta kwanza. Wakauliza ama wataweza. Akasema ni sawa twende. Sasa wakatupea ambulance.
Through her sister, Lucy Wamboi, Judy gave an account of what transpired at Kenyatta National Hospital. She maintains that her son died due to negligence. KNH management, however, said that the minor was given the best medical attention.
Walipofika saa 12, walikuwa attended to saa 4 usiku. Na kuanzia saa 4 usiku, daktari tena walimuona saa 2 asubuhi. Na baada saa 2 asubuhi kupelekwa theater ni saa 7 ya mchana.
Tukauliza kwani kumeendaje? Mtoto tumesikia anaenda saa 2, saa 4, saa 4, saa 5, saa 6. Kuulizia wakasema ati kumeingia emergency. Tukauliza kwani hii sio emergency ama ni jua tuna pesa? walikuwa anakuja hapo kitu saa 7.
The Jackson Mandago-led committee now wants to know all the medics who attended to baby Travis and the kind of treatment he was given. The senators also want the medic who attended to baby Travis at a local dispensary before being taken to Thika Level 5 hospital interrogated.
Sababu lile jembe lilikuwa na ule mti, lakini kwa picha kwa hospitali hiyo mti haionekani. Ndio utauliza nani aliyetoa ile, sababu ujuzi wa kutoa pia hiyo tujue kama ilisababisha maafa zaidi ama ilisababisha shida zaidi.
But I know at Thika Level 5 there is a neurosurgeon. I know for a fact there is an ICU. I know for a fact there's an ICU attendant there. But they were not there.
On Tuesday, the Senate committee is expected to meet with the family to the late Maureen Anyango, who lost her life due to alleged negligence while delivering twins at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital. Ruth, the mother of the late Edward Otieno, who lost his life over alleged negligence at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital following a road accident, is also expected to appear before the Senate Health Committee. Brenda Zeda Radido, KTN News.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the government needs 2 billion shillings to save 4.5 million Kenyans currently staring at starvation. He noted that 144 million shillings has already been contributed and more is needed to counter the effects of drought affecting various parts of the country. He said this while unveiling a business program, Kenya Youth Employment and Entrepreneurship Accelerator Program. He further noted that the need to have sustainable measures to deal with the effects of climate change. The government through KEPSA targets 1 million new jobs in the next 5 years.
The county government, the development partners, the humanitarian agencies and the private sector to look for urgent resources and coordinate distribution of food and set the stage for long-term and sustainable interventions in view of the adverse effects of the climate change. I therefore want to invite the private sector to partner with us. I appreciate what you have done, the 114 million, but I must say that is good enough. But the situation we are in, we need money. We need interventions.
And back to my colleague Winfrey Owino on what's trending. Between yesterday and today, or in the last 24 hours, Winfrey, we've seen serious issues trending in the country. Baby Travis Minor, who died after Jembe was lodged into his head. We also saw a conversation about the current drought situation in the country. Maybe you can just bring us to speed on some of the conversations online and how Kenyans are weighing into some of these issues.
Thank you, Purity. Well, first of all, we start with the baby Travis case. So yesterday, the mother and the aunt appeared before a Senate Health Committee that was chaired by who was Gishu Senator Jackson Mandago, and they came out and explained the last few minutes, the last few hours of when baby Travis was alive. So they did explain how they spent 14 hours waiting for medical attention at the Kenyatta National Hospital. That was after, of course, they had been given a first aid at a local dispensary. Then they were referred to Thika Level 5, which also gave them an ambulance to the Kenyatta National Hospital. So Judy explained how all this went down and how she got to Kenyatta at around between 5 and 6 p.m. And when they got there at 7:30 is when the doctor came, saw their child, took some pictures, went. Then the next time she was seeing the doctor again was around 10 p.m. Then up to the next morning at 8 a.m. So online people are actually discussing how these protocols we have in hospital really do bring about delay that might lead to the loss of lives. Well, indeed, if you look at it from a wider picture, of course, each and every institution has protocols. So this could really be the reason. Maybe the doctors were consulting among themselves, considering this was an issue involving a head, which is a very critical organ of the body. So I think that is what comes out. So maybe what people feel out here on social media is that this issue of protocols in hospitals, especially this healthcare institutions should really be looked into, such that if something comes in an emergency past the official working hours, it should be able to address with the same attention it would have gotten if it came in at 10 p.m. during the official working hours. So that is what most people are really talking about. In as much as it is coming out that there was negligence in the hospital and all that, it is not all about the negligence. You can also, people are arguing that you can also look at it from a point of, the doctor was here, he had this, but he or she had to consult someone who has the authority to say something or whatever should be done. So I think that is what most Kenyans are arguing on social media, mostly on Twitter. It's a two-faced discussion, but we'll see what the Senate Health Committee would say and the report they'll give concerning the issue.
Absolutely. Winfrey, we hope that the truth shall eventually be established. That's where we wrap it up right here at KTN News Diary. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again at 10 o'clock for KTN News Center. My name is